generating a positive change to help our world, I think, is a beautiful title, because we all want to help our world. We want our world to be a better place, but we don't necessarily know how to do this. And as my friend Jane has just said, I've been active with the climate change movement for years now. And very often people are quite affected by the reality of climate change, by the reality of the lack of decisions that is not happening. And so for me, it's been important to always come back to the inner space of what can I do really. I think that we all have a very special relationship with the world. And this is for me to recognize that the world around me, therefore, is a little bit a consequence also of what I am putting in it, of what I am doing, of how I'm interacting. But through spirituality, one thing I learned that I found very important, that is at the center of all of it, is what is my relationship with myself? Because each one of us is an artist and life is our art. So what do I create? How do I create what I create? And sometimes we want to act making a big difference. So we believe in advocacy, we believe in action, we believe in making people hear us, in asking for business to change its ways. We ask for politicians to take the right decisions. And people are only ready to move forward according to their readiness. Even if I personally feel that things should become different very quickly, people aren't necessarily ready to make the change. So how not to be frustrated, because frustration is not a good energy to help our world. And this is why I think each one of us can see how, as a person, we have an incredible potential to bring the energy that we have within out there. And so apart from campaigning and interacting with so many people during the COPs and before the COPs, what I have created for myself is a space of coming back to how can I be consequent and serve nature and help nature. And of course, there is physical acts like we all know recycling. Some of us have decided to become vegan or vegetarian so that our step on the earth is a light step. We have decided not to consume too much of the earth's resources because we only have one earth. And the way people are consuming at the moment is just so crazy that we would need 3 times the resources of the planet if we go on living like this. But each one of us, through the way we will interact with ourselves and with nature, will also be able to create inside a balance of respect, a balance of nonviolence, a balance of harmony that will therefore have an effect on others. One of the great topics that I have been also working with is the whole impact of climate change and the problems with the environment and with COVID on the human rights of people. And this is also something to consider. How is my life affecting others? And the way I see things, we are on the same boat. And it is not about trying to keep my boat, my part of the boat, okay. It is about keeping the whole boat okay. And for this, the communication we have, but also the kind of community we manage to create, the kind of energy we manage to foster amongst the other people who are actors with us on the same planet or in the same climate change reality, will have results. So, for instance, I have been working for many years now, trying to bring all the different faiths together on the same table to speak to each other, to listen to each other, and to feel and see and act together, to have respect and love for our planet, but also for our brothers and sisters. Of course, their language is going to be different. So when I speak the Christian language, they're going to speak about creation. When I speak with indigenous peoples actually, they're going to speak of Mother Earth. And Mother Earth also has some rights. And Mother Earth is the provider. So when I look at the world with this kind of vision, it means that I will start thinking also of the people living in the next generations, not just me, my little comfort, my heating system, my car, but I will start opening up and live in harmony with a wider range of the same aspects of reality that very often people are not necessarily taken into account. And this is why I think that all of us are so essential in whatever decisions we take, because we are all acting towards the future. The future will be what we create. Of course, now with the IPCC studies, the scientific understanding of what we're doing to our planet, how we're destroying biodiversity, some of us can get very overwhelmed, and there is a lot of, we call them burnout, because people feel so sorry, so upset. But at the same time, when I start seeing that we are all the same family of humans, we are all together, and the most vulnerable are my brothers, even though I don't necessarily know them, I will start creating and extending a vision of love, a vision of peace, a vision of togetherness. So for instance, at the moment with the question of COVID, many people will not be able to join us in Glasgow for the COP26, but they're creating around the globe pilgrimages, prayers, meditations, so that the right decisions can be taken, so that the energy that they are giving is a sacred energy, an energy of resolution, an energy of solution. And it is important to see both aspects, the aspect of what's not right, of what needs to be corrected, but it is as well important to have a vision, to be a visionary, and to look at what we want to create. So for a few years now, working with many different actors, we have involved the wisdom of indigenous peoples, for instance. So in Glasgow, we're going to create what we call a Talanoa dialogue. And in the Talanoa dialogue with people, everyday people from different faith backgrounds, we're going to have dialogues around, okay, what's the problem with climate change and human rights? And so what do we want to create and how we're going to do it. Because each one of us is important. Each one of us, through his personal awareness and conscience and consciousness, provides a setting, a very important fabric of light, in a sense, of understanding, of love. And this is also going to create the future. Sometimes I think we only see certain aspects of reality that are important, but we do not see the other aspects of reality, which is far more intangible, which is the climate of the heart, the climate of opening minds, the climate of collaboration. And of course, we want the countries and the governments to also start having that vision, to also take this into account. And through being ourselves examples and through creating ourselves the kind of energy that we think is needed, the collaboration, the respect for each other, it's going to be like steps towards a possible future. So each one of us is very unique and has a unique potential and has a unique vision. So I know some people who are passionate about being, eating the right things for their own body, but also for the planet. I know some people who have decided not to have cars and who therefore are not flying, are not contaminating. And this is also great. Some people want to be helping youth. And I think youth is tomorrow's world. So we need to give them a voice. We need to allow them to make decisions. And we need to listen to their needs for tomorrow. But we also need to help them have spaces of realization. So we are responsible to create that. And tomorrow, the world is going to be the world it is. So one important thing is to accept where we're at as well, because our attitude sometimes is an attitude of rejecting certain things, certain people, rejecting contamination, but we all contributed to create the world the way it is. So I think that we really need to develop a very, very big heart to accept things the way they are. And in this world that we understand as wide as we can, providing a space of realization, we are in the right frame to take the best possible decisions where we're at. So of course, the person who's going to be the director of a firm or who's going to be a president is going to have a certain impact. But we, the people, are making very important steps forwards when we are ourselves doing our inner work to recreate that relationship with ourselves of no violence. Because in a sense, what we have done by using and abusing Mother Earth is a relationship of violence. We didn't really realize it because we inherited the way of thinking of the past generation, where war were there, where women were not well treated. And we cannot just hope for the future to be what we want it to be. We need to make the changes inside so that we really are nonviolent. So we really are doing our work inside to create better relationships within the gender issues. So we give a space to women We give a space to children. We give a space to older people, respecting who they are and appreciating what they have given and what they're going to give. And also working with many faiths, I can see how the love that people have for God is actually something that is incredibly powerful. Because when you think that the world has been entrusted to you, to me, you kind of think, okay, it was given to me for me to respect, for me to be a trustee of. Am I a good trustee, or am I a destroyer? Am I destructing the world? Or am I giving love to creation? So spending time in meditation, spending time appreciating water, appreciating animals, appreciating the wind. We all breathe. We all need to breathe. Whether you're wealthy or you're poor, you're sick or you're not, this is such an immense privilege to be able to breathe. So the gratitude towards Mother Earth, towards nature, that has allowed such a system for us to not only live in, but also for us to create. I think one of the things that's happening is that we envision creation sometimes in a very physical way. So what have I achieved today is going to be something I count in terms of how many actions I've done, how many people I've spoken to, how many clothes I've bought. But this is not what it's about necessarily. What thoughts have I created? What feelings have I fostered? And all this has an impact on the world around me, on my environment, on my relationship environment, because whether it's my children or whether it's my colleagues or whether it's my neighbors, what I create also has power over them. So each one of us is carrying the light that he or she is. And one of the things that we have worked a lot with in the Brahma Kumaris towards nature is helping people understand how awareness is at the root of it all, in the sense that it's because I wasn't aware that I did that or I didn't do that. And the more awareness I create in myself, or the more awareness I maintain in my soul, in my intelligence, the more I will be acting differently, but also living differently, and I will provide a different taste. And so managing my needs, for instance, is something that sounds very difficult for people. Like one of the big words of the needs for now is adaptation to where we're at. So when we are in a world in transition, but transition sometimes makes people afraid. Oh, I'm going to lose my car if I don't want to contaminate, or I'm going to have to live in a cold house if I don't put so much heating system in. So then we're looking only at what we should do with a vision of loss. And I think this is something that is not the right way to look at it. Because if I think this way, then it's not a pleasant thing to do, to contribute to life. But it is a pleasant thing to do when I feel in harmony with myself. then I don't have so many needs. I don't need to buy so many things. I don't need to use so much of the resources of our planet. So definitely each one of us, through taking care of himself or herself, and through creating an inner world of harmony, an inner world of love, is going to bring a very different action. So one of the things that when I was coming out of the COPs, many times I've written meditation commentaries, so that I felt I was answering the need of the world, the need of today. And I decided to create not so much, I mean, I do go into activist things and ask for human rights to be respected, but the way I do it is by first creating a community of people and trying to build a sense of togetherness, a sense of brotherhood, a sense of possible solutions to be found together. And I think each one of us like that in his own world, in his own family, in his own work, can contribute. Even with the bus driver, you can contribute. It's a difficult work. So when people are in a bad mood, the bus driver is in a bad mood and he drives in a bad way. So being kind to the bus driver can be very effective. So I feel that each one of us is the driver of his life, and each one of us has the immense capacities to make a difference and to bring change and to create harmony. One of the other things that I'm quite passionate about, and it's not so easy to work with, is the finance aspect. In the language of climate change, we call it loss and damage. The people who have not been active in destroying our planet are the ones who are paying the biggest price to this change. So being able to have them in my heart and accept to create networks where these people can also find ways to live, ways to be welcome in my country, ways to be welcome in my community. You know, opening the heart is really a big thing. Now, I'm not going to oblige the wealthiest country or the wealthiest companies to necessarily give the money that they could give. But I believe that through having networks of people of goodwill in that sense, at some point, hopefully, a good number of right decision will come, but also people to people, and sharing my inner resources with them, even mentally, spiritually, with my heart, is also help we can provide. And this is the kind of thing that I took time to write, think, meditate, so that I feel in harmony with this part of me that is worried about it. Because when you're worried about something, you're not in a good space to solve it. So feeling responsible is beautiful, because when you're responsible, you can take decisions. So I think we also need to understand ourselves, to shift from guilt to responsibility, from fear to awareness and sacredness, and understand that fear is not going to help. So it's a work where each one of us, as an observer of his own self, can take decisions in himself, herself, but also within the community I live in. And I'm sure that all of us are here tonight because we are passionate about making our world a better place. And each one of you is definitely an actor to make that happen. So very happy to talk to each of you. And I'm sure together we will move forward in that direction. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the way I hope it is. The way it should happen is not necessarily what I envision. We need to learn to be also in harmony with all the different aspects of reality, understanding, accepting, and moving with reality. So I think I've already talked quite a lot. I spoke to you about this dialogue I'm creating in Glasgow with my friends and colleagues from the different religions. It's called Interfaith Talanoa Dialogue. We will have extend to the Manchester Centre the possibility of inviting you if you want to be invited, so you can communicate with them. So I don't know if there are questions for me, but if there are, I'll be really happy to answer them, if I may.
There is a question, Valerian, in the chat. Can you give some tips on how you keep your mind non-violent when you hear the lies of political leaders?
I think that if you look at the world as a play, in a play, you have all sorts of actors. And I remember a friend of mine invited me to see a Shakespeare play not so long ago. And the actors were actually playing it so well, but the role they were playing was so mean, some of them. But I didn't get up and say, let's kill this actor, because I knew he was playing a role. And I knew his role had a purpose in the play. And in a sense, I think that so many people in relationship with COVID or in relationship with contamination are actors also on display. And I need to see that they are the necessary agent for me to change, for me to not be violent, for me to not be a manipulator, for me not to be a liar, for me not to be doing what they are doing. We are in a game of mirrors in this theater. So whenever we see things we do not agree with, it's very important to take a big mirror and see what is it that I shouldn't do anymore, because it disgusts me when I see others do it. And I think it is a chance then to see how I can change, helping the people who fall victim of something by my awareness, by my generosity, by my intelligence, by my care, or changing inside as well. I hope I answered your question.
Going on from that, another question, I suppose it links into that last question. So it's a completely different way often that you're talking about from what we might be used to if we're campaigning, or the idea of changing the vibration, changing the energy to that non-violent, peaceful energy. In your work, in the groups you've been involved in, the interfaith work, but also the COPS work, do you see that transformation happening with people who maybe initially might have been in conflict with some of that more peaceful, non-violent, or just not listening to it? Do you see some transformation in people who might be politicians or who might be powerful in that arena in terms of the decisions that they can make? I'm just wondering, you know, some examples of that.
I remember once I organized a panel at the UN in Geneva, and it was a panel on the ethical aspect of human rights and climate change and the decisions governments should be taken. And I had invited with my colleagues a few people from different faiths and a few people who were victims of climate change so that they could share what's happening to them. And I remember one of the politicians who was there, because we had invited him to talk, so he had to be there. And at the end, he came to me and he said, please never stop saying what you're saying. It is just so important, this moral and ethical call that you and your colleagues are being instrument for. That's what we all need to hear. You might not see the effect immediately, but it will have an effect. And I also remember when I was in Poland, in Katowice, I went to a beautiful event that was quite not a big event, but it was beautiful because in it, there was a young girl who was there. And she was from one of the small island states. And she had been participated in the COP. And she was sat alone on the stage. It was quite a big stage. And she was saying, I can't believe that I am with the people who are the ones who could make the decisions to save my peoples and who are not. And she was saying, I don't feel angry with them anymore now that I see them. I see their peoples. But I see that I have this privilege to meet them and to understand who is in the game. So you see, it's not about just being hopeful about reality. It is about understanding reality. But understanding reality doesn't mean you need to be angry or to be fearful. It means you need to accept all the different sides as if it was one person. Like if you made the analogy of Mother Earth, being everything, being the one being that everything, humanity is one humanity. And, I can't cut my
Yes.
because it hurts.
You've come back. It just froze then, Valerian.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, it's not because I have pain in my hand that I'm going to get angry with it and cut it off, right? It is my hand. I need to care for it. So in the same way, some of the people need to be cared for because they're victims, but the people who are creating this world of injustice, they also are my brothers. So I also need to care for them because maybe these are the ones that, if they cared for properly, could make a difference.
If anyone has questions for Valerian, please do put them in the chat.
There is one question I can see at the beginning.
Oh yeah, there's a question. You mentioned that frustration is not a good energy to change our world, but the media feeds this. For example, panic buying of petrol that's going on at the moment in the UK. Any suggestions about how we deal with that, how we are with that?
Yeah, I think that when we are understanding that my being frustrated is not going to make anything better. Quite on the contrary, it's making my life rotten. So we need to be intelligent and finding solutions for ourselves. But sometimes the solutions come when we get together and find solutions together, because sometimes we are frustrated because we are so caught up into individualism that we don't see that together we could find solutions. So at the level of community, maybe the petrol could become something that we decide together, for instance. So creating avenues of communication is very important. But if your attitude is frustration, anger, rejection, and violence, who's going to want to talk with you? So that's where I have to understand that my attitude, being proactive, being respectful, and trying to find solution to what is not just, not fair, is going to be the best way to find solutions together. So within the communities I have, whether it's church, whether it's work, whether it's, I don't know where everybody is at, but this is how we can probably create avenues of communication to make things better. To ask the decision makers to make new decisions, or to ask the community how we can solve this problem together.
Thank you. There's another question. What do you do to meditate for the world?
Actually, the meditations that I was very interested to create when I came out of one of the big frustrating conference of parties was meditations to serve the elements, because I understand the world. I studied acupuncture and Chinese medicine for many years, and you see, what you see in front of you is a face, right? But this is your eyes seeing a face. But we know now that within this face, there is so many molecules, so many electrons, so much water and air and oxygen and hydrogen. And so what I see is not what is, but there is an energy that is there, right? And this is a very subtle energy. So if I become aware of the subtle energy of my awareness and the power of that energy, the power of peace, the power of good wishes, the power of love, with this power, I can try to infuse that kind of energy into the air, into the water. So one of the things I really loved doing was serving the elements meditation. So you start visualizing all the water of the world, and you start giving that water energy. You start visualizing the whole earth, and you give energy to this earth. You visualize all the water in your body, and you give powerful, peaceful energy to that. So likewise, it is a way to use my energy, my spiritual energy, to bring a new energy into matter. Because you see, this body is alive because in it there is a spiritual energy making it alive. That's how I understand. So in the same way, all the different spiritual energies that are human beings, so all the different beings are spiritual energies. And through the kind of thoughts and vibrations and energy they create, the more it's full of love, full of God's light, full of the beauty that I perceive, and that I try to reciprocate and share, the more I will be able to of meditations. So if you want, actually, Jane, we could have a meditation together where we do that.
Yes, I think that leads us very nicely to that. And it'd be really nice for you to lead us in that kind of meditation. Just before you do, there's another comment in the chat where someone has said that they love the answer about finding solutions. We wouldn't have any worries about anything if we were to approach situations with that in mind, which I think is a lovely thing to think about. But yes, if you could lead us in a meditation that takes us into that experience around nurturing the elements, be fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jane. And just about that comment, I think that, you see, worry is part of how we are built in our awareness now. So it's not about, okay, no worry. No, we have to take the worry, look at it, and almost speak to that energy in me and say, Valerian, if you worry, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping to solve the situation. But if you take this situation and you give it energy, positive energy, and you bring your heart into it, it's going to change. So it's like, it's not about suppressing worry, but it's about transforming and dissolving it. So in order to serve nature together, I invite you to sit and breathe. And when you're breathing, be aware of the air coming in through your nose, going into your lungs. And it is like feeding your body with the oxygen. And when you breathe out, you allow particles of carbon to come out of your body. So now when you breathe in, visualize all the plants on the planet, the trees, the grass, that have created the air for you to breathe, and feel grateful. So much is happening at the level of the chemistry of nature for us to live and appreciate life. Feeling grateful is a great feeling. But also breathing in and breathing out, let me be aware that the air coming out of my nostrils is going to go into your body in a minute, into somebody else's body. So let me fill this air with love and good wishes and beauty and gratitude, so that its effect in the environment is soft and kind and gentle, like a caress. And little by little, I can see this whole planet in front of me, with its animals, its oceans, its trees, its clouds, its skies, its rocks. And I feel so much appreciation. It's been here for thousands of years, providing us with food, shelter, a home, air, water to drink. And I, through being aware of this being that I am, this spiritual being of light, this spiritual being with an immense potential of love, I want to pour love into matter as a gift from the soul to this earth that has provided for all of us. Being aware of the subtle energy that I am, the being of light that animates this body, I can feel a dimension of love and light and a source of love and light. Constant, unlimited love is coming from this source. And I can be drinking, absorbing this light, this love into my being and share it in waves with nature, the oceans, the trees, and my brother humans, beings, bringing this light into my awareness. I share this light, bringing the awareness of I, the spiritual being, in the dimension of light. I become like a channel of light that I can pour out onto Mother Earth, our sweet planet. Whenever I want, I can be aware again and again of the energy and the spiritual potential in me and the spiritual dimension open for me to be aware of and bring in my awareness all nature to the source. I bring to the source of love my awareness of our planet, and together the source of love, the source of peace, the source of light, and I, we caress matter, energizing it with love and peace. Whenever I want, I can again recall this dimension. I can remember the source of love, and I can choose to become an agent, a channel of that love and that light. Each one of us is free to do in that way as much as he wants. Gradually become aware again of the room around me. And move my body a little bit and smile to life. Thank you so much for having me and listening. And I wish you good meditations.